Here we go. What's good? It's Woog. We have a former undisputed lightweight champion going up a division. Now all of his belts are vacated down at 135. He's going up to 140. And in his first fight, he's going to be challenging a very good two-time champion who is still desperate for a signature legacy boosting win. We've got Regis Prograis, and yes, I'm going Regis Prograis, the champion first, even though the promotion is making Devin Haney the A side with his name first, with his face on the left of the flyer. But I'm going to do this the traditional way, introducing the current champion first. Regis Prograis, 29 wins and 1 loss, is defending his WBC super lightweight title against Devin Haney, 30 wins and 0 losses. Isn't it crazy, by the way, that both of these guys have 30 professional fights? And that's because obviously Devin Haney started super young when he was fighting his first several fights in Mexico, just kind of building his skills and his experience before getting into the increasingly bigger and bigger fights. And, you know, for all the hate that Devin Haney gets, isn't this what we want our young fighters to do? Like, I mean, contrary to like Jaime Munguia or even Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney is trying to fight the most meaningful fights out there. Like, he made it a point after fighting on DAZN for some time, you know, when he and Eddie Hearn were first working together, and then he scored a couple wins, and then he, you know, knocks out Antonio Moran. In fact, that fight and then his next fight where he actually earned the vacant WBC interim lightweight title that then elevated eventually to become the full WBC champion. Remember when they were calling him an email champion when he had the WBC belt and he was trying to fight Ryan Garcia when Ryan Garcia had no interest in fighting for that WBC lightweight belt? Well, Devin Haney had those first few, you know, matchroom fights with a beautiful knockout over Antonio Moran, and then Zaire Abdullayev stopping him in the 4th round in a win that I think is aging pretty well. But those were his last 2 knockouts. After that, you know, he was dealing with an injury. He beat Alfredo Santiago and then returned about a year later in late 2020 after that first COVID 2020 summer. He fights a very, you know, aging Yuriorkis Gamboa. Haney dominated that fight. And then he gets those 2 significant step up opportunities against Jorge Linares and then against Joseph Jojo Diaz. Won both of those fights via unanimous decision, although in that first fight, the Linares one, people always keep bringing up that moment towards the end of the 9th or 10th round. I think it was the 9th round where Devin Haney was visibly hurt and kind of staggering, stiff-legged, walking back to his corner. People will look at that and they still attribute that moment to Devin Haney having a weak chin. I mean, that fight was what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights ago. I mean, he fought Jojo Diaz after that, and he did eat some left hands from Jojo Diaz, but he won via unanimous decision. And then he has those super high stakes fights against George Kambosos, where people will forget, you know, these were nearly even odds. Going into that first fight against Kambosos, we always have that revisionist opinion once we see a fight play out, but there were a lot of, I mean, the opinion was split on what was going to happen with Devin Haney traveling out to Australia to fight George Kambosos, who was hot off of that win against Teofimo Lopez. And we knew that George Kambosos kind of had a fan-friendly style. We weren't quite sure on who would have the speed advantage, the hand speed advantage between the two. And we also figured that maybe if this was a close fight that looked like Devin Haney slightly outboxed Kambosos to win a close decision, that the decision could go the other way because the fight was taking place in Australia. And sometimes, you know, sometimes we are just prisoners of the environment. I mean, the Melbourne crowd was going to be super raucous. You know, I mean, that is where George Kambosos is from. And by the end of that first fight, and remember, Bill Haney was almost not able to go to the fight until he, you know, made the arrangements and was cleared to go pretty much at the 11th hour. And Devin Haney dominated that fight against Kambosos so badly that they were taking like crowd shots during the broadcast, and all you saw were people just standing around, looking around with very somber looks on their face. And as wide as that decision that we saw with our own 2 eyes, the scorecards were actually a lot closer than that fight actually was. You might be able to give George Kambosos 2, maybe 3 rounds, maybe even just 1 round for Kambosos. It was a landslide victory. Regardless of what those scorecards said, we saw what we saw. And then he comes back and then he does the same thing in just as convincing a fashion. So let's not overlook the pressure that young Devin Haney had to bear when he left Matchroom DAZN for a bit to go fight those two Kambosos fights and then the Lomachenko fight afterwards. But those two Kambosos fights were super high stakes, and he couldn't even afford to let those fights get close. And those fights were so lopsided that they dramatically changed our opinions, not only of Devin Haney, but of George Kambosos, because George Kambosos has kind of done this with public opinion, you know, when he was beating Mickey Bay and Lee Selby in very close fights. You know, it was kind of like, okay, maybe he's kind of a B minus level, you know, fighter on the elite level. And then he beats Teofimo Lopez. It's like, oh, maybe he's better than we thought, even though Teofimo had a terrible game plan and almost no strategy in that fight, but it adjusted our opinion. You know, it forced us to adjust the potential ceiling on how good George Kambosos might be. But then in those back-to-back fights against Devin Haney, it's like, no, he is what we initially thought he was. You know, like, he is clearly a rung on the ladder below the elite level. And I mean, you want to know how badly that first fight was for Kambosos? Look at the betting odds going into the first fight, and then look at the betting odds going into the second fight. That should tell you all you need to know about how well Devin Haney performed in that high pressure situation. And then he fights Lomachenko, which I get it. That's one of the more controversial fights of the year. I mean, most people that I was hearing from thought that Lomachenko won the fight. In my non-existent or at least non-official scorecard, I had Devin Haney winning, you know, by a round. I think you could even make the argument, most would disagree, but I think you could make the argument of a 8-4 fight. You could also make the argument for a draw. Look, I get it. That was a very close fight, but even for those who thought that Lomachenko won the fight, can we at least agree on a couple of things? Devin Haney could have, exited that 5th round up like 4 rounds to 1, at least 3 rounds to 2, but maybe even 4 rounds to 1. After 5 rounds. And sometimes I feel like the attitude is, well, Lomachenko beat Haney up in like the 10th and 11th round. Well, this is a round by round thing. Like, Devin Haney can edge like rounds 1 and 2 or 1, 2 and 4 or 1, 2 and 4. He could edge a few rounds, right? Where it's like, okay, it's a tough, call, but I think Devin Haney did more work. He, was driving that right hand to the body. If you look at his trunk movement, which Regis Prograis also has pretty good trunk movement, and the way that Devin Haney was popping out that jab and, fighting more than boxing in a lot of those moments, backing Lomachenko up in a lot of those moments. Even if those Haney rounds were close, and then let's say Lomachenko wins like 2 or 3 rounds by a wide margin, it's still a 10-9 round. That round that Lomachenko won by wide margin, it's not any more valuable than the round that Devin Haney edged. You get what I'm saying? So it was a very close fight, but just the fact that Devin Haney stepped up when Lomachenko, stayed in Ukraine, I mean, understandably so. But George Kambosos, and props to George Kambosos for deciding to take the next guy up, Devin Haney handled his business twice in Australia, and then he fought Lomachenko and fought, at the very least, a very competitive and even fight. And at the very most, a win, it was officially a unanimous decision win for Devin Haney. Again, regardless of what you think about him as a person, which I don't even know why you would necessarily dislike him as a person. Yes, he has said some questionable things. Yes, that was like not cool of, the push in the weigh-in against Lomachenko. But I mean, we see fighters do that pretty often. That is not an uncommon thing to do. Or even if you don't like his fight style and you think that he's too jab heavy or defensive minded, can we at least agree that he seemingly wants to smoke with the elite fighters? Like, if Devin Haney versus Gervonta Davis doesn't happen, it's not because Devin Haney doesn't want it to happen. I mean, yes, he has, left the division, a division that he was struggling to sweat down to in multiple fights. But Devin Haney seems to want to fight all of the top guys, and he seems very legacy based, where a lot of people, he does want to get paid, and he has been getting paid very well for a large chunk of his career now. Like since maybe that, that DAZN, that first DAZN deal, Devin Haney has been making good money and it's getting progressively more and more. So look, he's just checking all the boxes. Let's just keep it real. Devin Haney is killing it right now. Like his career trajectory, and he's still 25 years old, is looking pretty beautiful. I mean, Teofimo Lopez does have two magnificent wins against Josh Taylor most recently and against Lomachenko. But Devin Haney, like Gervonta Davis is a few years older than Devin Haney. And Devin Haney has already become undisputed champion, has had more official belts than Gervonta Davis, who has only had that 130-pound IBF title that he got from beating Jose Pedraza several years ago. And yes, it was Gervonta Davis who fought Ryan Garcia, but Devin Haney wanted to fight Ryan Garcia. So yeah, I don't think that Devin Haney is getting enough credit. Whatever your problems with Devin Haney are, let's just agree that at 25 years old, he already has significant wins and significant accomplishments, and he's looking to achieve more. Going up in weight, fighting Regis Prograis, like aside from maybe like Subriel Matias, I mean, you want to talk about like high risk, low reward, just in terms of like name recognition. Subriel Matias, the IBF champ at 140, and Regis Prograis, like he doesn't have Teofimo Lopez type name recognition, and Prograis 35 years old, so he badly wants this win. And I'm glad that Prograis is getting this fight. I am a Regis Prograis fan. I like Regis Prograis. I mean, partially because he's from New Orleans and my family's got New Orleans roots. But I was very impressed by Regis Prograis when he fought that World Boxing Super Series at 140, where he fought and beat Kirill Relic, where at the time that might have been Regis Prograis' best win aside from maybe Terry Flanagan, the former 135-pound champ, who moved up to 140 and lost to Regis Prograis in the quarterfinals of the WBSS. And then Regis Prograis stopped Kirill Relic, good fighter who's beaten Rancis Barthélemy. Kirill Relic was kind of buzzing for a minute. Regis Prograis stopped him in the 6th round, and then he lost that majority decision. Another very close fight. Majority decision loss to Josh Taylor. And this is prime Josh Taylor. Good legs, young legs, Josh Taylor. That was a very, very good fight. And man, Josh Taylor has so much dog in him. Still does. I mean, but he had the legs to match and he had a lot of dog in him. But that was a very good fight. And it was a fight, again, that Regis Prograis lost. That's his only career loss. And, after that, he kind of went into what people call like boxing wilderness, where, he was with Pro Bellum for some time and he was just trying to, kind of find his bearings, fighting, Juan Heraldez in late 2020 after that COVID 2020 summer. Ivan Redkach on, I believe that was a Triller fight, stopped Redkach in the 6th round. Remember that weird one where Redkach acted like he was injured? I don't want to use the word acted too loosely, but that was the perception and opinion just watching the fight. But it ended up resulting in a 6th-round TKO for Regis Prograis, and then he beat regional British fighter Tyrone McKenna, stopped him in the 6th round. So Regis Prograis was looking for a significant opponent, but none of the key guys at the time were getting in the ring with him. So he was having trouble securing a meaningful fight. And I mean, let's keep it real. When you start to kind of self-manage your career, that could go one of a couple ways. You could either have a lot of success like Canelo kind of has in steering his career, or it could kind of fall apart and backfire like it did for many years with Demetrius Andrade and other fighters who try to self-manage. Basically, if you don't have like Canelo-like clout or something close to it, it could be very dicey trying to self-manage. And Regis Prograis, in my opinion, kind of found that out the hard way. But then he was made a mandatory, for the vacant WBC 140-pound title, one of the belts that Josh Taylor was stripped after Josh Taylor became undisputed in that Ramirez fight after that win over Prograis. So Prograis fights Jose Zepeda, and Jose Zepeda's been champing at the bit too, beating pretty good fighters, fighting that fight of the year against Ivan Baranchyk. And you want to know how hard the business of boxing has been to Regis Prograis? This fight was on Marv Nation, the promoter Marv Nation. I don't even know if Marv Nation is still operating, but I went to that fight at the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California, formerly the Home Depot Center, formerly the StubHub Center. And by the way, I am going up north to the Bay Area, the Chase Center, to see this Devin Haney versus Regis Prograis fight. Super excited about that. But yeah, it was a Marv Nation fight. Marv Nation like doubled the next bidder. It was one of those purse bids where Marv Nation arguably understandably, I don't know how the business broke down and if they made a profit, but I doubt that they made a profit. I think it looked like they overbid, by like maybe, I don't know, like $1 million compared to what the other bids were looking like. But they secured the fight. They put the fight on, and Regis Prograis looked very good against Jose Zepeda. I will say Jose Zepeda's defense wasn't great. He had very little head movement. I've seen Jose Zepeda look better against lesser fighters than Regis Prograis, but Jose Zepeda has beaten Jose Pedraza. Jose Zepeda has fought an even fight that he lost like a split decision against Jose Ramirez. So Jose Zepeda's been in there with some very good fighters, and he did not look that good. He had a few moments in the early rounds against Prograis, but Prograis started to roll downhill. Prograis started, flicking out that double jab, making a lot of contact with that, and then blasting him with the left hand when he saw the opportunities. And by the way, I know Prograis being painted as a one-handed fighter who's just looking for that big left. Like if you look at the Devin Haney versus Prograis face-off, where Chris Mannix is kind of moderating the face-off. Devin Haney keeps on, pointing to Regis Prograis being a one-trick pony. Yes, Regis Prograis does throw a lot of left hands, and he is looking to land that bomb, but let's not discount his kind of sweeping and pretty quick right hand, because he's a southpaw, right hand lead, right hook. It's pretty quick and it's pretty powerful. Like, he rocked Zepeda with that a couple times. I mean, he bloodied Zepeda up with that right hand lead hand jab. So I don't think that Regis Prograis is as one-dimensional as he's kind of being painted. And this fight has been sort of painted boxer versus slugger. And yes, again, Regis Prograis has the power punching edge. But, when Regis Prograis was fighting like Kiro Relic and Terry Flanagan and even Josh Taylor, I wasn't looking at Regis Prograis as being like a non-boxing slugger. I do think that he has some skills. He's got some nice head movement. He is able to slip a lot of punches kind of skillfully. He is able to use his jab, sometimes more than others. I thought that he was headhunting against Ivan Redkach on that Triller card, but Regis Prograis he could afford to do it against Ivan Redkach. He didn't really respect Redkach's power too much, and he was just kind of walking Redkach down, and he was showing him the left hand before he would throw it, and then show it again and throw it. So sometimes he looks more skillful than others. In his latest fight against Danielito Zorrilla, who many people thought either won the fight or deserved like a draw, but this was not a good showing for Regis Prograis. Danielito Zorrilla, who in the past has been a slugger in moments and has had some very high octane, high action fights. In this fight against Prograis, he kind of did the opposite. He was on his bike, showing a lot of movement, and then just ambushing with one or two big, powerful punches at a time, and then getting back into moving, making Regis Prograis have to find him. And a lot of people theorize that it was that fight against Zorrilla where Prograis did score a knockdown over Zorrilla. Zorrilla should have gotten a knockdown against Prograis. They didn't rule it a knockdown, but it should have been a knockdown. Not that Prograis was hurt, but he was off balance. He tasted a punch. He hit the canvas. Like, I thought that should have been a knockdown. They didn't trip over each other's feet as far as I saw, but a lot of people think that it was that Regis Prograis fight against Zorrilla that Bill Haney, who attended that Zorrilla or Prograis Zorrilla fight, saw that and thought, oh yeah, my son can beat Regis Prograis. Now, Bill Haney, to Devin Haney's credit, went to the fight because, according to Devin Haney and his team, that they wanted that fight against Prograis. So it was more so like a scouting and show face thing rather than a let's see how he looks and then decide whether we want to fight Prograis. Haney's team is saying like, no, it wasn't that. Bill Haney was out there because we wanted to fight Regis Prograis. So look, this is Devin Haney's first fight at 140, and he's not having a 140 tune-up, one of those kind of get your feet wet in the division types of fights. No, he's going for one of the most feared and one of the best fighters in that division over the past 5 or so years, basically in the post Terrence Crawford era. You've got Josh Taylor, who was the man, right? Josh Taylor was the gold standard, undisputed champion. And then you've probably got Regis Prograis, the next best fighter at 140, again, in the past 5 years. I know Teofimo Lopez would have something to say about that, but it's one of those show and prove. Like, I don't know sometimes what to make of Teofimo Lopez. I know that, sometimes at the highest levels, in certain moments, in certain fights, he can shine. But, I thought that Sandor Martin might have deserved the decision win over Teofimo Lopez. So, but Regis Prograis has been right there, near or at the top of the division with or without a belt. Now he's a 2-time champion. And that's who Devin Haney, who again gets a lot of hate in the game, in the boxing community, that's who he's gonna fight. So look, again, I give props to Haney for taking this fight. And when I really size up, again, I'm gonna do this, Regis Prograis versus Devin Haney with respect to the champion. One thing that I was curious to see it, and then we saw it when they faced off, when the fight was announced, and they had that first press conference. Devin Haney is a little bit taller than Regis Prograis, and I think he's gonna have a significant reach advantage. Is Devin Haney still growing or something? Because, I remember when he was listed at 5'7", now he's listed at 5'8", and I think that he's looking like he's more like 5'8.5", like more like Canelo's height these days. So I think he might be closer to 5'9" than 5'8", but I don't know. And he's listed with a 71-inch reach. Prograis, I think, has like a 67-inch reach. And, Prograis, he's a strong guy for the division, but he's not a big guy. He's like a shorter fighter. He's listed at 5'8", but I think Prograis is more like 5'7". He's listed at 5'8", but I'm guessing 5'7", 5'7.5". And I don't think that he's gonna do what he wants to do against Devin Haney. I know, look, usually when somebody jumps a division and then they go against one of the head honchos in the division, and Devin Haney didn't have great power at 135. Like, he hasn't had not only a knockout since that fight against Zayor Abdullayev, but has he had a knockdown? He didn't have a knockdown against Lomachenko in either of those two fights against Kambosos, if I'm not mistaken, against Jojo Diaz, against Jorge Linares. He didn't have a knockdown, I believe, in any of those 5 fights, or against Yorkis Gamboa before that. Again, I could be wrong, but I don't recall Devin Haney having any knockdowns in his last several fights. So for somebody, and look, maybe he's fully hydrated and feeling a lot better, not having to cut all that weight to 135. Maybe he hits a little bit harder at 140, but I'm erring on the side of probably not. Like, I don't think all of a sudden he's going to be a thumper at 140. Like, he doesn't have poor power at 135, but it's not put your lights out or like change the fight in any one particular moment with your power type of power. I mean, he's got enough power to be a deterrent. Again, he backed Lomachenko up, and when he fainted, Lomachenko reacted. And look at, how much he was able to keep Kambosos at bay. Kambosos wasn't in a hurry to get hit by any of those flush jabs. So it's enough power to do that. But I mean, he's going to be fighting somebody who I think that at any moment can change the complexion of the fight. Because, as good of a puncher as Jorge Linares is, when Linares went up to 140, he got smoked by Pablo Cesar Cano like a long time ago. I know he has since gone up to 140 again, and he recently lost to Jack Catterall, but a few years ago he got blown out in the early rounds, and this is before the Haney fight against Pablo Cesar Cano. So Linares is a good puncher at 135. He's a multiple time champion, right, at 135, but he does not have the punch of Regis Prograis, nor does he have the hand speed of Regis Prograis. And I'm wondering who's gonna look like they have the faster hands between Prograis and Haney. Like, will Devin Haney be able to keep Prograis at bay? Prograis, again, he's got pretty good trunk movement. He does the thing where he bends at the waist a lot, and he kind of like moves his head from side to side, kind of rolls a little bit down, it kind of scooping motions, and he's looking to flick out that jab and sometimes a double jab. And he was just popping Zepeda with that double jab like that whole fight, and he would just kind of move his head to the side, and then he'd go pop pop as he's stepping forward, pop pop with like 2 jabs in a row, pop pop, and sometimes put something behind it, sometimes just throw the pop pop double jab. I don't think that he's going to be able to find Devin Haney as much, obviously not as much as he found Zepeda with that double jab. I mean, if Team Haney are watching tape, they're going to know to look for that double jab. And Prograis, yes, he does love to throw that left hand. Is Devin Haney going to be in the region when Regis is throwing that left hand? Now, Devin Haney, for all the reputation that he has as a sweet scientist, boxing from the outside, jab heavy, he can get on the inside. He can use his kind of big shoulders and his physical strength, not punching power strength, but physical strength to kind of body his opponents. Not to say that he's going to be able to body Regis Prograis, but I do think that he's going to be formidable physically against Prograis. But once you start getting into those trenches, and again, Haney likes to move at the waist as well. He likes to slip punches, and he likes to counter on the inside. You know, when you throw, he's going to throw like right with you and try to catch you with like a nice little tight left hook. And he throws a nice, you know, long distance check hook sometimes as well. But will Devin Haney against the southpaw be able to let a right hand go reliably? Like, did he have a good right hand against Jojo Diaz? Debatable. I actually think he had a more effective right hand against Vasily Lomachenko, especially when he was throwing that right hand to the body. Is Devin Haney going to look to go to Regis Prograis' body with that right hand down low, you know, aiming for the side of the body area? And if he's going to invest down there, is he going to be able to do so without Regis Prograis coming over the top with a nasty left hand? Like, look, the more Devin Haney could keep this at a simmering temperature rather than a steaming hot or boiling temperature, which I'm sure that's the pace and that's the frenetic energy that I think Prograis wants this fight to take. Now, Prograis looks smooth in there, but he's looking for combustible moments, right? He's looking for explosive exchanges to be able to let his hands go. Yes, he does just kind of have that, you know, that very mellow looking face as he's just kind of doing his thing. And by the way, I've recently thought that he and Amanda Serrano look like they could be brother and sister just in their facial features. Like, they look like they could be related, and they have the same look on their face as they're kind of doing their stalking, they're hunting their prey. Prograis kind of does the same thing. Again, he was having a frustrating time trying to hunt down Zarya, and maybe there's something to, you know, the legs of a 34-year-old, right? Like, Prograis, when he was hunting down Zepeda was more or less right there. Yeah, he might take like a little step back, but Zepeda isn't doing any like moving around the perimeter and trying to make you find him. Zepeda is going to be there because he's looking for opportunities to let his left hand go. Now, he wasn't able to find Richardson Hitchens to save his life. That was an impressive schooling of Zepeda by Richardson Hitchens. And Richardson Hitchens is kind of like the standard in terms of that range control in the division. He's very good at that, right? Devin Haney's pretty damn good at that as well, but I've been seeing him get, you know, involved in more exchanges, more of those phone booth moments. And I think that there are going to be some moments between Haney and Prograis that take on that complexion. And it's almost like Haney is trying to prove to the naysayers who have something to say about his punching power, oh, I'm going to show them. Watch me take the fight to my opponent. And again, we saw him backing Lomachenko up in a lot of those moments. And something else should be noted about that fight against Lomachenko. Whether you thought he won or he lost, the fact that he got beat on a bit in those 10th and 11th rounds, which I think it was the 11th round that was a lot more convincing for Lomachenko. The 10th round was arguably close, but Lomachenko did have big moments in the 10th and the 11th, but it was, I think, the 11th that was the clearest Lomachenko round. Devin Haney came back after that, and arguably, I thought he won the 12th round. So that also speaks to his heart, to his focus, to his discipline. Like, there are a lot of things that impress me about young Devin Haney, man. And I can see him posing a lot of problems for Prograis, even though, again, Prograis is a southpaw who's going to be looking for those moments to either hit him with that lead right and to close the distance with that double jab and put something behind it. Look for those moments where you can let your left hand go, especially if Devin Haney takes a step forward or comes to you. And Devin Haney, when he comes forward, he dips, he changes levels a lot. He doesn't come in on a straight line, and even if he comes in on a straight or nearly straight line, he's kind of dipping and staying low, so you have to suddenly shorten your punch to a large degree to be able to connect with his head that is closer to your chest area as he's dipping, as he's stepping into you. And Prograis can shorten his punches. I mean, he's got short arms to begin with, so Devin Haney's got to be careful there. I don't think that Devin Haney should fight Prograis in the way that he fought Lomachenko. I think that Haney should fight Prograis more like he fought Jojo Diaz. And can he win that fight? He beat Jojo Diaz, what, like 9 rounds of 3, 8 rounds of 4, something like that. Can he win a decision over Prograis fighting, largely behind the jab, looking for his moments to mix it up, but mostly trying to maintain range, make it look like Prograis keeps on walking into him, but walking into jabs, walking into punches, walking into some straight right hands, and just being the better mover, to where if you do your work to Prograis' body and you hit him with enough jabs, make him pay for the real estate, as Teddy Atlas likes to put it. Even if you don't have extraordinary punching power, I could see Prograis' legs slowing down in the back half of the fight. And if Devin Haney wants to keep things at range at that point, maybe he's able to do so against Rougarou. And I've been so back and forth on this one. I've been like talking with family and friends and trying to get their takes, their opinions. I mean, their boxing opinions. I mean, I listen to the experts, the former fighters, the former trainers. I listen to some of my favorite boxing channels on YouTube. I listen to like podcasts like, Chris Mannix and so forth, Sergio Mora. And I listen to, trainers. I listen to all kinds of different people, but I also listen to my family members who have been watching boxing like for all their lives. Like, I feel like I've been watching boxing all of my life. And, my family is split. Well, my dad thinks that the odds are disrespectful, which I do agree. If I was going to make a bet on this fight, I think I might pick Prograis simply to win, because I do think Prograis can win a decision. Like, if he drops Devin Haney and Devin Haney recovers and Haney wins a few rounds or Prograis wins a few rounds, Prograis can conceivably win a decision, or he can hurt Haney and potentially stop him. I kind of see Devin Haney's only path of victory being a decision win. I know my brother is a little bit more comfortable in his pick. He thinks that Haney's going to win. And something tells me that Haney is going to be able to box effectively, and that his abilities are going to transition nicely into 140. He wasn't a great puncher at 135. I don't expect him to be a great puncher at 140, but I do expect him to be an effective boxer and to have formidable enough strength and punching power to where it serves as a deterrent, and you can more or less have your way and win a lot of rounds. Devin Haney, I see as being one of the better round winners in the sport. And Prograis is a good round winner as well. And again, I mean, this just speaks to how back and forth this whole thing is. I need to see what Prograis' ability to close the distance and to get involved in exchanges where you kind of have those 50-50 moments where you're either trading, backhands, right? You're trading a right hand against a left hand, or you're trading hooks where whoever pulls the trigger first, it could be you that eats the meaner punch. It could be him that eats, the worst of the punches. How many circumstances like that can Prograis create? I want to see that. And I think that question is going to be different in the first couple of rounds versus in the middle and late rounds. I think that it's going to be harder. I don't know this, but I think it's going to be harder for Prograis to close the distance as his legs start to tire if Devin Haney does the things in the earlier rounds. And Haney's going to have to be careful in those early rounds. If you're trying to do some work to the body, proceed with caution. If you're trying to constantly throw out a jab against a southpaw, proceed with caution. If you're trying to throw right hand leads, like a lot of people do, a lot of right-handers do against southpaws, you got to be careful in the early rounds against Prograis, but you also have to be careful in the middle rounds against Prograis. But something tells me that Devin Haney is up to the task. Like, if I hadn't seen him step up in some of the biggest moments, including that Lomachenko fight, the controversial win, and in those two fights against Kambosos, in the step-up opportunities before that against Linares and Jojo Diaz, Devin Haney just shows up, man. Like, his poise is beyond his years. And even though Prograis is a dangerous customer, and I would not be surprised by a Prograis victory in the slightest. And look, I wouldn't have guessed that Devin Haney would be as good as he's become. When I saw him, because I watched his little YouTube channel. He used to have a YouTube channel back in the day when he was fighting in Mexico. So when he was trained by Floyd Mayweather Sr., he would be on the camera like, yo, this is Devin Haney TV. Like, literally just like moments before he's walking into the ring in one of these small club fight-like environments, and then beating, or, either by decision or stoppage, beating this like 30-something-year-old Mexican fighter in Tijuana. I'm like, man, who is this kid? Like, there's just no way that this kid is the truth. Like, talking that brashly and acting like you're ready to become a celebrity before you are ready to become an elite boxer. I just didn't know if, as he stepped up the rungs of the ladder, if his skills were that damn good to where this kid, 16, 17 years old, was going to grow into, young Simba was going to grow into a king. And he's coming off of a win against Lomachenko several years later. So, I feel like I've been nearly front row to the story that is Devin Haney. And it's just been super impressive. And, in full disclosure, if I had to tell you who I'm kind of pulling for in this fight, as I like Devin Haney, I think I'm kind of pulling for Regis Prograis, because I've also witnessed the Regis Prograis story and a lot of the promotional frustrations and just the career frustrations that he went through after that Josh Taylor fight, basically from like 2020 to like 2022. I thought that his career was almost done for. I'm like, damn, that's going to be how he closes out his career, just kind of quietly fighting these meaningless fights and then not having another signature fight after this. So this fight is everything, for Regis Prograis. So I think that I'm kind of hoping, it's a slight thing because I like both fighters. I'm pulling for Regis Prograis, but I'm actually going to pick Devin Haney to win this one via decision. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think that Devin Haney might even have moments like he did against Linares where he gets clipped and kind of hurt. And usually when Prograis has somebody hurt, he can close the show. Like 24 out of his 29 wins have come via knockout. So he definitely has the firepower to put Devin Haney away. But Devin Haney he's defensively responsible, even if he does have certain technical glitches in certain moments where the right or left hand isn't up at the right time, or, if he's backing straight up, or if he's not moving laterally, after throwing his one or two shots. He usually moves well after throwing his punches. His feet are always either taking a step or taking a slide, laterally. He's got all dimensions of movement, side to side, front to back, and up to down. So he's pretty damn defensively responsible. He's going to have to be against Regis Prograis. But again, something tells me that Devin Haney is up for the task. So I'm going Devin Haney via close decision to beat Regis Prograis, and to win the WBC junior welterweight or super lightweight title on Saturday at the Chase Center. Yo, who do you think's gonna win this? I'm really looking forward to this fight. Have been looking forward to this fight. Can't wait to take that drive. I got to check the weather, because going from SoCal to NoCal, you got to pass the Grapevine, and it could get really dicey around that area, or at least California dicey. For those of y'all in the Midwest or on the East Coast or in places with weather way more treacherous than Southern or even Central California, I know I sound ridiculous talking about dicey weather, but yeah, it could be a more dangerous drive in the wintertime going from SoCal to NoCal. So I got to check the weather, but I can't wait to get up to the Bay Area and watch this fight live. But I really want to hear your thoughts on this one. Again, I'm going Devin Haney via close decision. Look, there were moments leading up to when I was thinking about, okay, what am I going to say in this video? For some time, I was planning on picking Regis Prograis, and then was kind of torn between via decision or via stoppage, because I just thought that it was too audacious and too much of a task to go up a division, and it still might be, to go up a division and fight somebody the caliber in that division of a Regis Prograis. It still might backfire, but yo, they talk about daring to be great, right? That's kind of become a cliche term. If you're gonna hate on Devin Haney, find a reason other than boxing related reasons to hate on Devin Haney, because again, his fight trajectory has been pretty remarkable, and I think that it's been what I wished a lot of other fighters that I really like and that I really want to see against a lot of the other best fighters in the divisions and in the sport. That's kind of the path that I wish that more of them would take. And yes, he probably plays hardball negotiations wise, but yo, he's been paying the cost to be the boss. Little by little, he's been paying the cost to be the boss. So I can't knock him for that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this one. And also, divisionally, how does everything else shake out? Does anybody fight Subriel Matias, who we don't even know where PBC is going to be staging their fights in 2024, but will the IBF champ Subriel Matias be able to land a meaningful opponent in 2024? I'm erring on the side of probably not. And what happens with Teofimo Lopez in the WBO belt? Who does he fight next? Does he even fight in 2024? We don't know that. And then with the Rolly Romero WBA belt, which they just pushed the O'Hara Davies versus Ishmael Barroso. Barroso's the guy who just fought Rolly Romero with the very questionable Tony Weeks stoppage. Well, Barroso's got an opportunity against O'Hara Davies to fight for, I believe, an interim belt. I think the winner of that is supposed to fight Rolly Romero if he could get his health in order. And if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, I would think that Ryan Garcia, who's coming off of the win against Oscar Duarte, will have the winner of Rolly Romero versus the winner of O'Hara Davies and Ishmael Barroso. But I don't know, because they pushed that Davies-Barroso fight back, I don't know if they have that much time for Ryan Garcia to wait before getting like a title shot, because I do think that he will get a title shot at 140. But what do you think would be next for the winner of Regis Prograis and Devin Haney? And who are you picking to win and how? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for sticking around in this, pretty long fight preview video. I hope you enjoyed listening to it and watching it as much as I enjoyed giving it. And please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.